Yeah, Lord, we just thank you so much for Greg. We thank you for his leadership, Lord God, and everything that you've put in him, Lord Jesus. And we just pray that you bless what he's prepared, Lord, and speak to our hearts. In Jesus' name.
Thanks, Alex. Alex is first hosting today.
Yay!
Doing very, very well. Well done. Thanks for that so far. We're going to have communion after I speak, and so I'm sure lots of you are in different places in the room, lots going on, different for different people, and communion's a really good place to focus that kind of all of those prayers, and also just really like with the community to offer different people prayer who need it. So that's where we're going to heading towards communion with what I'm going to say. But we're in Acts, and we're going to start with Acts 10 and then flip back to Acts 2. But Acts 10 is all about big decision and massive shifts in the early disciples' lives. The book of Acts is all about the early church, those of you that are not that familiar with it. And Acts 10 is about this massive decision. And I just wanted to ask in the room, are there people in the room that have made any monumental decisions, particularly ones with God, where they felt, actually, God's really shifted something in me and I've gone in a totally different direction? Just wanted to put it in context. Anyone got that? Pam?
Well, when I was 22, I decided to move here.
Okay.
And it was a weird decision because it was kind of like, you have to do lots of stuff. You have to get a job, you have to find a place to stay, you have to book a flight and everything. And I felt like I'd made the decision, but I don't know if I had. And then I got on the plane and I was about to fly here and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to England. And that's changed my whole life because here I am now, and yeah, the rest is history.
Yeah, that's great. Anyone else? You guys?
I mean, the farmer thing was quite mental because that's never really been something that's been on my radar. But it felt like God very clearly was saying it multiple times throughout the year, so it was like, okay.
Go for it.
Yeah.
But are you asking when we've gone the opposite direction to what?
No, more made a decision with God and kind of like actually realised it was his decision.
There's loads of decisions that I made with God, but the one that sticks out of mind was when I went to Bethel and I sold my car, sold all my shares and stuff, and just basically said yes and then left.
Right.
With only having the rand to the dollar isn't great, so it was a very big decision. But yeah, just one stepping out in faith, and then even coming here, I don't even know how I got to LoveBristol, but off a phone call and then in the mix.
A lot of these decisions that people are saying have a sort of uncomfortable edge to the decision making, and I think in the story in Acts 10 very much reflects that as well. The story is of Cornelius, who was a soldier and basically was a Gentile, so wasn't Jewish, but he was someone that was kind of living after a sort of a godly life, but hadn't obviously encountered Jesus. And the story is a very long passage, so I'm not going to read it all, just focus on a couple of things. But the story is one of God speaking to him and saying, you need to find this guy, Simon Peter, and get him to come and see you. And on the other side of it, you've got Simon Peter, who's a Jew, who's had a big revelation of who Jesus is, and is just starting to walk that journey. And he's preparing for a meal and has this big vision where God says, get up and eat any sort of animal that you want. And I think for me, there's a couple of things that strike me about that story. Is for us, that it's very easy with our culture, where we kind of eat anything we want to eat, more or less, to understand what a massive deal that would have been for someone who was Jewish. I remember talking to Nathaniel a few years ago about different food, and he was Jewish and came to faith, and he's sort of just him talking about eating things that weren't acceptable, say eating something like pork. The very thought of it was like there was an inner repulsion about them, feeling that it was very dirty, and so someone like Peter, where God's saying eat anything, it's like just the thought of this. What is it you're saying to me? This feels really horrible. I don't really want to get involved in this. What could it be? I think just letting that sink in is for us is important about what then happened. So do you want to ping up the passage? And so what then happened is that Cornelius sent some servants down to meet Simon Peter, to look for this guy and invite him back. And that really was the start of the story of Jesus reaching out beyond the Jewish people to what was called the Gentiles, and actually everything changed. That was the start of Jesus being relevant to the whole world, the revelation of him being relevant to the whole world. So it's a monumental part of the story of the church and our story. We are all Gentiles, and this is part of our own story and our own history. But I think in terms of us and this passage, a couple of things that I wanted to just alight on in terms of decisions is that firstly that whole thing that it was difficult. There was a difficult aspect to the decision, and that's not unfamiliar for you who've made big decisions. That often there is this difficult side to it. It's not always easy. The second thing that I think is really important is in this first line. It says, while Peter was still thinking about the vision, is that it wasn't immediately apparent what he should do or what it was even about. And I think that's quite important when God is speaking to us. Sometimes we feel like we've got to have all the answers or revelation straight away. But obviously this was one of the most significant things in the history of the church. And when he had the vision, he said he was still thinking about what could this mean. And so I think that's encouraging for me, that actually you don't always have to have an absolute clear understanding of what it is from God. And also the other thing that I think is really significant is further down the passage where it says, so Peter went down and said to the men, I'm the one you're looking for, why have you come? And what that speaks to me of is that's a yes from Peter, saying yes to the guys. I'm here, I'm the one, I'm available. He doesn't even know what they're going to say to him, where he's going to go, where they're going to take him, what's going to happen to him. But he's saying, yes, it's me, I'm here. And I think, again, he didn't know the cost. They could have taken him anywhere or done anything to him, but he was kind of saying yes. And I thought, again, that's an important thing around the revelation of God for us with decisions. And I think what I wanted to talk a little bit about today for us as LoveBristol, it's kind of a little bit of an in-house kind of family talk. It's just about what God's been saying to me, particularly about where I feel like we're at as LoveBristol. And I think it's not insignificant as a community, a church. We're hitting some anniversaries this month and this year. It's like 10 years, I think, this month or November, that we opened up Happy Tap down at the end of the street. And it's 10 years in 2022 since we started some form of the bakery and Esme being involved. And I think there have been a lot of things that have happened during the last 10 years, and some really amazing stories for what God's been up to. But each one of those projects and things that we've done has had that element of not really knowing. I never ever imagined I'd be involved in running a second-hand furniture shop. I never ever imagined being involved in a bakery. There's so many things about what we do that I never ever thought I would be involved in, and had no idea. And in fact, had you told me, I probably would maybe reacted adversely. I thought, I do not want to be involved in some of those things. And it's funny how God kind of unfolds and the story unfolds, and you do get drawn in. And I'm not saying I wasn't an instigator in some of them happening, but I certainly never ever sat and planned for those things to be part of my life, or felt they were something that God was going to call us to be involved with. But I think what I feel like is a little bit is that one of the things that's been truly amazing about Love Bristol community is this sense of everybody having an overlap of life, kind of day to day, and there is something really quite remarkable about that in this community. Not solely people that are in this room right now, but just the extended community of Love Bristol that's around. And in some ways, I feel like it's all what God has created amongst that. It's almost like a bit of a village kind of sense of a big village, which is kind of like this incarnational thing. So we're kind of living amongst the ministry that we see happening, and it's a really positive thing. And we're in community with some really amazing people that are also trying to do really positive stuff. And we've met some really amazing people over this time. But what I want to talk about is where we're at now. So it's 2022. So we started this whole thing about 15 years ago. I think the first thing we started was a free shop in like 2006, further down in Stokes Croft, where we just literally opened the shop up and said everything in here is free, and people came in and gave us stuff and took stuff away. But it's 15 years on, where we're at now. And I think one of the flip sides to a village, sense of a village and village community, is that you can end up with something like small town syndrome, which is basically where insignificant things can become really important, and we can lose sight of the bigger picture. And I feel a little bit that over the last couple of years, because of all that's happened with COVID and with other things that have happened around the world, we've kind of lost sight of some of those bigger things, and we've ended up focusing on some of those smaller things. And it's not that I don't want this to be a condemning talk at all. I just want it to be a bit of a refocus for us. And I feel like it's become quite hard to carry hope through these situations, and hope for the future, and hope for the people around us. But it's not impossible to do that. And I think one of the things that encouraged me about my time in Ukraine is that you do see people that are carrying hope, even though they're in such dire situations. And I think if it's possible for those guys, it's got to be possible for us. And what I think God is wanting is not for us just to reinvent all the things that we've done. So pick them all out, lay them all out, and say, right, how do we get all these things back up and going again? But what I think God is wanting to do is basically rebuild ourselves as a really healthy community, and to re-establish the call on our lives. That's what I'm feeling at the moment. And I feel like at times we as a community got slightly distracted, wandering all over the place, fascinated with all the chaos that's going on in the world. And meanwhile, the world is burning, it's on fire. And what people in the world are looking for is clear and pure expressions of God's heart. And I feel like some ways that we have kind of lost a little bit of that along the way. And it's interesting that in other churches around the city, we're seeing so many people that are coming to groups like Alpha because they really wanted to come to faith. There is a real hunger at this time for God, and what God needs is a really healthy church. What I wanted to just, and some people have talked about some of the stuff around Halloween and all that sort of thing, and it really perplexes me that we could get more fascinated with sort of carving pumpkins rather than, someone's baptism. But that's where we're at, and we've got to kind of move on from that place. So what I want to look at is there's a passage in Acts chapter 2, verse 42.
Keep going.
Yeah. Next one. Yeah. So this little version is in the New Living Testament version of the Bible, and basic New Living Translation, and basically someone. If you've been a Christian a while, you read the Bible over the years lots of times, and sometimes just little verses pop up and you've never really noticed them before. And someone mentioned this about 6 weeks ago. Nancy, it was, a woman that's been working with us in Poland, and she's been doing community out there and running it, and she referenced this verse, and I've never seen it quoted in the way that she kind of spoke about it in the community. Basically, I feel like it could be a little bit of a manifesto for us, and basically there's four elements to the message. One is teaching, the second is fellowship, the third is sharing meals, and the fourth is prayer. And I just wanted to spend a little bit of time talking about it, because I feel like it's a bit of a revelation of what actually getting back to a healthy community what it should look like. And so that's what I wanted to spend a little bit of time talking about today. So the first is teaching, and what I feel I wanted to say about that is that there's loads of we do talk about this a little bit, but there's loads of teaching online, and some of that's really good, and a lot of it's really good. But what I wanted to say about teaching is that I don't think it's just about listening to stuff online or listening to the people that you like the sound of their voice. It's basically also about listening to the people that really know you, and the people that feel a sense of responsibility for you, the leadership team that is around you, that actually is praying for you and wants you to succeed and thrive. And I feel like some ways we've got to see that as something really positive, that there are these people in our lives that God has put in our lives, in and around us, that want us to thrive and do well. And we need to listen and be and seek out their wisdom. And I think for me, what's really encouraging is when someone comes up to me and says, God has been speaking to me about this. What do you think? And actually both using their own direct revelation from God and also asking for, okay, what do you think? What do you think God's saying in this? Is such a healthy way of doing it. So just really encourage us to ask to meet up with people and get their wisdom, and also to be really attentive to the wisdom that people are imparting. When someone prepares for a preach, or speak, listen to that wisdom and go back over the preachers that you've got from people that know you, that are living in the same place as you. They're not living in California or somewhere else. I listen to that stuff as well, but it's not the whole picture. You've got to get stuff that's local. The second is fellowship, and I'm passionate about this one. That fellowship means gathering other believers. It's not church in your bedroom. And over the last 5 years, there's several people have come and gone that have said that they feel like kind of church gathering is no longer needed. It's a bit of irrelevance, even though it's been going on for 2,000 years. That somehow in the last 3 years they've had this revelation. That's it. And I just think it's highly unlikely that their revelation is going to topple 2,000 years of what has been going on. And obviously with COVID, we've wreaked a bit of havoc with that, and Zoom church, which we all welcomed in, a bit like the sorcerer's broom, and sorcerers have come with this broom where we thought, amazing, and wow, isn't it great? And it's actually caused devastation. So most churches actually turned it off. Because it hasn't actually helped with the health of the church. It did a job, and there's nothing inherently wrong with it, of course. But it is about gathering with other believers, and it's not just about trying to find people that speak like you, that look like you, that are on the same Spotify list and the same clothing brands that you're into. That's not what fellowship is about. It's about diversity and unity across diversity. It's not unity of the unified. It's like not people that are already doing the same thing. It's actually finding people that are different to you. That is really important. And also the other thing I want to say is highly likely when you actually start fellowshipping with all these people that they're going to say something that offends you. And that is, you've got to prepare your heart for that and actually work out that basically someone says something offends you, you've got to try and look for the gem of truth in that, and actually rather than discard the relationship, because often these gems of truth come in badly wrapped packages, but they should actually hold gold, So that's really, really important. And I think building a capacity, some people are really good at this, at reaching out to people that we wouldn't normally, oh, that's interesting that they're hanging out with that person. And some people are really good at it, and we want to be a community that builds a capacity to do that, that is not just rejecting people and just trying to find always the right person, because all that does is it reflects our own insecurity about ourselves. The people that are able to reach out to more diverse people that aren't like them, are actually revealing a greater inner confidence. And it's really like, you've got to check yourself if actually you can only be around people that are saying that. There's some insecurity in you about the way that other people are seeing you. So you've got to overcome that sort of thing. The other thing I want to say is, we talked a little bit about small groups. Small groups, I spoke with a pastor in Ukraine the other day, and he said to me, small groups are the lifeblood of the church. And I had a conversation off the back of that straight away with one person, and I think it's really true. It was just a bit of like, actually, what he said is that they're one of those things in life that you only realise you really needed them when you're in the middle of a crisis. When everything's going on, you think, oh, I don't need this. I don't need to turn up and see these people every week and sit around with them and study the Bible, whatever. But when you're in a crisis, who are you going to turn to? And that's when a small group is really, really important, because they are the people that will walk through the ups and downs of life, the things that happen that we don't expect, things that are hard to overcome. Those are the people that will walk through that with you, and it's really important. We want to start. Doug is doing more work for the church this year, and we've tasked up with starting 5 small groups.
You want to lead a small group, sort of thing?
So,
could be any day.
Really, really important. The third one, eating together, should be quite an easy one, and should be easy for us to do. Most of us like eating together. But the thing I want to just pick up on is this little edge to it, which is sharing. So, sharing meals. So it includes that word generosity, and we're not healthy if we're not generous. That is a truth right there. It's like Colin was saying last week. We all have a level of income, and we all choose what we do with it. What are we choosing to do with the income we've got? Are we giving money away? And 10% is a biblical theme of money. It's like, are we giving beyond that? Are we giving up to it? Is that our ceiling? Is that our floor? How are we thinking about what we do with our money? It's really, really important. And if this is your church, you should be giving some element of money to help this church happen. That's just a fact. And if you've never given, been around the church for years, you've never given any money, then you probably should change and pray about it and change it. And it's really good for us to be generous people, to be generous around us. I know in our own lives, when people, just at different points, really significant points, people have been generous with us, and it's made a massive difference to our lives. And so I want to be that sort of person, and I want to encourage us as a community that we're generous, because behind every act of generosity there is a kind heart, and we've got to have kind hearts to be healthy as a community. So and with God, we can't outgive God. There's that whole side of thing. We can't manipulate him either, so we can't give to try and get back. But actually, we can't outgive God with our generosity. And just with the food thing, again, we're starting the big table. Invite people round that you don't know to your house for a meal. One of the things for me that has been over the years that has been so significant is about inviting people to the table. It is easier in a community house, but it's not impossible in your own homes as well. But just having people at your table that have got no idea what they've said yes to when they're coming along, and they basically encounter God in those conversations. It's a funny way that God just uses those setups to get introduced to people that don't know him, and we've had some really amazing times around our table with different people. So please, I want to encourage you to do that. And then finally, fourthly, is prayer. And I just feel like I wanted to say this, that if we're not a praying community, I'm not really sure we're a Christian community, because I think it's that vital to what we're doing. And so that means spending time with God on your own and with other people praying. Oh, I've offended someone. Jokes aside. No, it just, as Paul says in Ephesians, I don't know if I've got that up, is it Ephesians 6? Yes. For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against rulers, against authorities, against the powers of this dark world, against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms. So actually, that is what you're battling when you're praying. You're battling with the spiritual side of life, and actually, it's really important that we acknowledge that we're not just in the physical world as a community. We're pursuing that. So, what does that mean? It means finding people that you pray with, prayer partners. If you've been around church, you've been through prayer partners, prayer triplets, prayer groups, all of those sorts of things. Now, you don't want to write them all off. They all have their time and their season, but you've got to be doing something. So pick one of them, pick all of them, but be doing something like that. Because I think it will change things. And again, it's when you're going through stuff, finding people that will pray with you week in, week out through situations, that will fast over particular things that are being contended for. That's the sort of community and family that I want us to be. So, just to recap, teaching, really important. Go for teaching, not just online, use wisdom within the community here. Fellowship, not just finding people that are like ourselves, being present on a Sunday, really important. What people who don't come on a Sunday don't realise is that everyone else notices they're not here. They've got no idea. And it makes it really hard when you're doing stuff all week with them, and then like, I can't worship with you on Sunday. That's what I want to do. I want to be worshipping with the people that I'm doing life with. Really important. Eating together, fairly obvious. Said invite people around, go for meals, do the big table, all that stuff, and prayer. Maybe make a decision. You can ask somebody, will they pray? Could you meet up and pray with me once a week? And we pray together, or even a couple of people over a particular issue, or just for personal stuff. And then it's a slight diversion, but I saw a little sign yesterday, and it really caught my attention, so I'm going to ping it up on here. And this little sign, has anyone seen that sign themselves? It's literally half a mile from here. It's basically in a little Oxfam shop up on Cotton Hill. But what I felt when I saw it is that could or should be almost a sign on a church door, because that is what Jesus. And there's this passage. Flip to the next one. Said the time has come when Jesus said these words. The time has come. He said, "The Kingdom of God has come near. Repent and believe the good news." Jesus invites us and invited us to change the world with Him. This is good news for the world. The world desperately needs good news at the moment. There's so much chaos out there, and the world needs people that really know who they are and are carrying the presence of God into each and every situation. And I wanted to show that because I felt that there'd been a lot of we've done a lot of stuff as LoveBristol. We went to Ukraine in March, and again that was something that I did not know 4 weeks before that we would be in Ukraine. I did not know how long we'd be going for. I did not know what we'd end up doing, but I think the way that I've approached my relationship with Jesus is that I want to be able to respond to His call and His nudges on things and go out and do that. So from a young age, I think that's probably what my aspiration has been, which is why we ended up saying yes to Ukraine. And when we got there, it was really hard, and there were some hard aspects to the situation. I remember the first morning waking up at 6 a.m. It's minus 10, sleeping in the back of a van, no heating, no insulation, and seeing somebody I had said yes come along on the team, wandering around in the car park at 6 a.m. with nowhere to sleep. And I'm thinking, what the heck have I done? All these people this way. And so they're not always easy, these things that we do with God, these adventures that we go on, but we felt it's the right thing to do, and I feel like there has been fruit on it. But there's also been a cost to you guys and a cost to family. Not everything runs smoothly in LoveBristol. It's not run smoothly as a result of us being over there, and I appreciate the grace that you guys have extended towards me and other stuff, and probably behind the scenes there's lots of things being said, but I do appreciate it, and I suppose I want us to carry grace for people that actually step out in that way and do stuff for God. And I'm not looking for everyone to repeat what we're doing exactly. Everyone's got a call in their lives, and like these guys gone off to Stream Farm. Sure, it's going to be I grew up on a farm. There's days and it's bleak. It's like 5 o'clock, it's dark, it's raining, you're out in the middle of a field somewhere. It doesn't look quite the picture you thought you were saying yes to. But you're going with it, you feel God's in it, and you've got to see it through. And there'll be other people that are doing other things as well, and we want to be supporting those things, be a community that does support it. So lots of rambling. What I want to end up with is communion. Because Jesus is at the centre. Someone said earlier, Jesus is at the centre of all of this, and actually our relationship with Jesus is what all of this comes out of. So I want us to have communion now, and there's a blessing that basically when again a few weeks ago I was fortunate enough to be speaking in Ukraine to people that were going through this. And there's this blessing from Romans that I would like us to pray over each other. Did you want to say it like that? No. Okay, I'll say it. So this is a verse here. That's not quite how I read it, but anyway, the version I've got says, "May the God of hope fill you with all joy and peace as you trust in Him, so that you may overflow with hope by the power of the Holy Spirit." So I would like that.
It's a different verse.
So if we could have communion, and then what I'd like is just maybe just in 2s and 3s, just to be praying that over each other.
Maybe we could find it.
Yeah, I'll find it.
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Yeah. Sounds good, Greg.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Oh,